Good Tuesday, friends of the Curse of Politics. We're down to the short strokes here on the Daily Ontario Pod edition. Like the Ford campaign, we just want this to be over now. We've got some fresh numbers from Greg Lyle and Innovative today. We've got another stunning Labour endorsement for Ford. And unlike any other podcast in Canada, we have Allison Smith from Queen's Park today. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning. I am on some other podcasts, but I'll keep that under wraps.
Oh, we have to find out this way. Is that it? Oh, great. Isn't that nice?
If there's anything I've been doing this campaign, it's been appearing on podcasts. But yes, so we are on the second to last day on the hustings. I guess I'll start with Andrea Horvath. She is going to be in Ottawa today, and then hitting up kind of the same ring of ridings she's been going to throughout the campaign a bunch of times. That's Kingston, that's the Bay of Quinte. She'll also be going to Whitby and Scarborough. Healthcare was her focus yesterday, specifically hiring nurses. And that's likely what she's going to be talking about today. She's going to be talking about ending PC and Liberal cuts. Stephen Del Duca, he is going to be in Oakville, again, talking about stopping Doug Ford. He has a ton of stops today, and a bunch of them are about the HST holiday on prepared foods. Again, he's going to be basically only in Peel for the day, but he'll be doing a rally tonight, another Done with Doug rally at the Grand Taj Banquet Hall, which is in Mississauga. Doug Ford, yesterday he was in Ottawa, Windsor. He appeared on the top of the Ottawa Citizen Building, which surprised the folks in the newsroom below watching the news conference. Which
no kidding.
Funny.
No kidding. Was he driving a delivery truck for them? Here's a copy of the Ottawa Sun and a handshake for you. Like, come on.
Yeah, that was interesting. And it kind of seemed like he was not going. I mean, if you know, the Ottawa Citizen Building is on the highway, not right downtown. So it seemed like he was maybe steering clear of, I don't know, the type of Ontarian who might be very mad at him for not attending to the convoy or the power outages the way that they would have liked. But there he was talking about expanding the highway that runs into Ottawa. He also went out to Windsor, where he got endorsed by the Tecumseh mayor, who, according to the PCs, is a card-carrying Liberal, and he actually ran for the Liberal Party in two separate elections. Today, Ford is doing
30 years ago.
Yeah, no time recently. But Ford today he's going to be in St. Catharines for a photo op and Niagara Centre for a photo op. Those are two NDP held ridings that we've seen Ford pop into a few times on the campaign, that the PCs clearly have their eyes on. It's Wayne Gates in Niagara Centre and Jenny Stevens in St. Catharines are the sitting members. So the PCs definitely seem to think they have a chance in those parts of the southern Ontario.
Hey, Allison, I got a question for you. Ford in Ottawa yesterday. Is your sense, I know it's early, but is your sense that he was able to get his message out about the 417, or was it completely blunted by the reaction to him not having been there before?
I guess it's hard to say. I think if you watch the news conference, it was blunted. But if you happen to maybe read a Canadian press article on The Wire, you might have seen the highway update. But I mean, it's all kind of the same. It's the exact same stuff, different location, right? This highway is coming. This highway will be bigger. Get it done. Get stuff delivered faster. He's staying really on that same message, and it obviously just works because it translates to pretty much any part of the province. You can grow a highway.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Allison.
Thank
you for your stalwart support and encouragement throughout this whole process.
Yeah. Nope. Well, why don't you get a cup of coffee and then go play with your other podcast pals? To hell with us. We're done. Don't worry. We'll make the bed. You go on off with your other lovers.
Oh, sorry, they're calling. I gotta go. If you want to read Queen's Park Today, you can go to politicstoday.news and get a free trial of that, or our provincial, or Alberta, BC, or
it's a little late to sign up for that now, isn't it?
Well, it keeps going. It's not going anywhere, unlike this podcast.
Queen's Park carries on.
Yeah, excellent. Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. Hey, Jenny, just a sidebar for a second. You won't care about this, but Scott, I gotta tell you in case you don't know, I'm wearing my Jerry Jeff shirt today.
Ooh, beautiful.
It's a Jerry Jeff and Guy Clark shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a young Guy Clark. I see that. Yeah.
And it's because Steve Herle has out yesterday a tribute album to Jerry Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew that was
very,
coming.
very
I didn't
anxious
realize
to hear it. Yep.
I knew it was coming. I didn't realize it had dropped yesterday. That's good.
It's part of his trilogy: Townes Van Sant, Guy Clark, and Jerry Jeff.
I have 2 children under the age of 13 who can sing more than one Townes Van Sant song. So that's the kind of household I'm running.
And one of them is Marie.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys.
Yeah, what's that?
Before we start, I want to go. Why is the NDP? Why is Horwath in Kingston and Bay of Quinte? I mean, I know they're right off the highway; they're easily accessible, but I don't get why they're wasting time. They're not going to beat Todd Smith. They're not going to get a lot of Eastern Ontario votes. I know that Kingston is an anomaly, but I think, why are they there? Why waste days in those ridings?
You got to stop somewhere on the highway. Where else would they stop on the highway? You can't drive all the way down the 401 and not stop anywhere. At least it gives you a chance to get a message out, right? You can stop and say something.
That's the only logic, is that they're media centers, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So Greg Lyle gave me some numbers last night. They're the last round of his election tracking, but he does have, I should caution you, a poll I'm going to be paying more attention to coming out tomorrow, which is a live telephone interviewer poll. All of this other stuff has been collected online, not to diminish it, but I still believe in live telephone interviewer, and we're going to get that tomorrow. And sneak preview, he thinks it looks a little bit better for the Conservatives than his online tracking does. But what he's got this week is 35 Conservative, 29 Liberal, 24 NDP. And, to be honest, given sample sizes, that's kind of within the margin of error of what other people are showing. 34 could be 36, 29 could be 27. So it's not like I think that we have a fundamentally different race here, and the the seat dynamics don't change that much with these numbers. However, I will say that one of the things that I thought was interesting in the poll was that it showed that for the first week of the campaign, the Conservatives had a bad week. Wasn't really reflected in a change in voting intention numbers, but for the first time, a lot of people said, based ironically on advertising, and the campaigns have sharpened their advertising a fair bit, that they heard a lot of negative stuff about Doug Ford.
Holy shit, go figure, eh?
And surprisingly, Doug Ford's negatives went up.
Wow. It's almost like every campaign in history that spent money on advertising was onto something. And the experiment the two opposition parties indulged in for the first 3 weeks of this 4-week election campaign was stupid. Christ almighty.
I completely agree with Scott. I completely agree with you. Who could think where we would be in terms of these election results if the Liberals and the NDP, two new political parties to the system, had just figured out that contrast advertising works against their opponents.
Oh man, you have to laugh or you'd cry, Let's talk about a couple of truisms of living through these last 2 pandemic lockdown years. Our ability to move about freely was severely restricted. We've been hyper-focused on our own health. And the two are related. Think of how you accessed your doctor or how you filled a prescription during those lockdown periods. Not shockingly, COVID-19 dramatically increased the demand for all kinds of digital health services, particularly virtual care. TELUS is our presenting sponsor. They created their TELUS Health business 13 years ago, and since that time, it's grown into Canada's leading provider of digital health technology and primary care. I'll give you some staggering numbers to chew on in just a second. But as a company rooted in social purpose, TELUS Health is aligned with TELUS's mission. That is to use their world-leading technology in a way that's not only good for business, but good for people in the world. That means a seamless flow of health information and systems that allow Canadians the opportunity to play an active role in managing their health. I'm a pollster. I know how numbers can powerfully tell a story, and these ones really speak to the changing nature of how we get the care we need. In 2021 alone, there were 551 million digital health transactions through TELUS Health. What the devil is a digital health transaction, you ask? So did I. Well, it's everything from visiting your doctor virtually, to processing your health insurance claims, to enabling care teams to remotely monitor patients at home, to your doctor managing your health through an electronic medical record, and shipping medications to your doorstep with virtual pharmacy service, to physiotherapists and other allied providers processing e-claims so you're not out of pocket for health benefit expenses. Last year, 1.1 million more Canadians started using TELUS Health virtual care, bringing the total number to just a hair under 3 million. And when you add in all the Canadians supported by TELUS Health, that number balloons to 19.3 million. Hurley-Burleyites, that's more than half the population. TELUS' focus on how its technology supports Canadians across the full continuum of healthcare falls under their ESG commitments, environmental, social, and governance, which you can read more about in their sustainability and ESG report at telus.com/sustainability. So I thought there was a huge development yesterday. And for anybody with any sense of history, Monty McNaughton, who is, I think, got to be a challenger for most valuable player on that operation. Monty McNaughton tweeted out a picture of himself with Pat Dillon and said that Pat Dillon had endorsed him for his riding, and tacitly, I guess, endorsed the government. Who's Pat Dillon? Pat Dillon was a labor leader who, for several decades, ran something called the Working Families Coalition, which gathered together union money and ran negative ads against the Conservatives, and worked very, very hard in at least 4 election campaigns to defeat the Conservative Party. People may have thought they were for the Liberal Party, but in my experience, they were just against the Conservative Party. And you can quarrel about how effective they were over time. In my own one experience, their operation was completely divorced from any opposition party strategy, as near as I could tell. And they ran heavy ads against the Conservatives, but they weren't necessarily the ads I would have wanted to run, for example, when I was running the Liberal campaign. So I don't know how because they had their own agenda of things they want to push in their advertising. But nonetheless, Conservatives certainly thought like it was hurting them. And I never minded the fact that however effective it was, there was a couple of $1 million of extra weight out there pounding on the Conservatives. So for this guy now to be endorsing the labor minister, it's astonishing. And it really, there's just so many implications to this. It's a political realignment. It has big implications. Those private sector unions were big sources of workers for the Liberal Party in election campaigns, and big additions to the volunteer base. So there's that. There's obviously a huge public-private sector schism in the union movement now about what they want out of government, and what the membership thinks they're looking for out of government. It's a big deal. I know we've talked about it before, but Pat Dillon really puts the maraschino on top of the whipped cream.
Yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. We've talked about the realignment of the PC coalition in Ontario many times. But this really highlights it, I think, for probably some movement conservatives. So I would say the working family ads in 2011 were probably the most effective ads within any political party, third party. The working family ads of the back of Tim Hudak's head, a pretend Tim Hudak sitting in front of what is perceived to be CEOs and bankers in Bay Street, basically getting his marching orders, had a huge buy in 2011, was extremely devastating and effective. This government, Doug's government, has been very good to unions, and so we're seeing that now in terms of payback, in terms of union support. Now you have Monty's endorsement of Pat Dillon, and then I think that there's up to 10 now unions that have endorsed the PC party, 8 to 10 unions that have officially come out and endorsed the party in some capacity. And so this is very interesting. There are, though, some movement conservatives who have been involved in a very long time that this leaves a very uncomfortable taste in their mouth. People that have been knocking on doors for 15 years, who are in the trenches in the 2011, 2014 campaigns against you guys, who are like, come on, like this guy was part of ensuring that we did not win 2 elections, and now we're just kind of forgetting about that. But so that will be a question then for the PC Party of Ontario going forward after this election. It's just as voting coalitions can change, so can the makeup and of political parties as well.
Man. Scott, I haven't seen Labor throw itself into something like this since Buzz Hargrove got on our train in
2004. Yeah.
2004, yeah.
Yeah, I think, first of all, those movement conservatives get moving down the road and thinking about the future. I think that would be really really injurious to say, no, I don't want any part of this. So I think there's 2 things that are worrying about it. We talk about this, and to lots of people involved in politics or watching this campaign, they go, oh, this is an interesting curiosity. It's more significant than a curiosity for all the reasons you say, David. I'll take 2 specific things about it. One, that lone photograph of Monty McNaughton should be alarming, like an absolute bone-chilling event for the Liberals. And the reason is that you could say to yourself, we're going to get through this campaign. Maybe this labor phenomenon that we're seeing with the private sector labor unions, maybe that's just a Doug Ford thing. That's the populist Ford thing. He's reaching out. He's kind of got a bit of a lunch bucket appeal. Maybe that can just be a short-term thing. The photographs with Monty McNaughton, who, Jenny, you correct me if I'm wrong, he's 19 years old, right? So he's, Monty is young. So one, I look at that.
He's got very nice. He's got very nice skin.
Beautiful skin. I mean, that's my second favorite thing about him. That, and he recruits massive labor unions. But the skin is also great. He's young. He's going to be a contender for leadership in the future in a post-Doug world. And he now has this huge constituency. But it says to Liberals, oh, we can't just assume or hope that when Doug is off the stage, that the stars will realign and that those private sector labor unions and that relationship will vanish. I mean, Monty McNaughton is putting a tent peg in the ground, and that's got to be alarming for Liberals because you can see a structural realignment of those relationships. The second thing that's really concerning for Liberals is you sort of see some polarization happening as well. So assume that Horwath is finished after this campaign. Well, my guess is somebody in the NDP is going to say, you know what, let's at least cement our relationship with labor. That's going to start with the public service union. So they're going to go hard again after the teachers, hard again after all the public service unions. So you got the public service unions are going to be much more deeply attached, if there's any sense to the NDP movement, with the New Democrats. You see these private sector labor unions are, there's the prospect that are going to be rooted and tied for a while with the Conservatives. That leaves you without a lot of infrastructure. You're locked out of the labor union play. That's concerning. So it's something that, as a Liberal, you look at it and you go, man, how did this happen so fast? All of a sudden, we're standing at the dance without a partner.
I've never run a campaign where the Conservative Party had a shred of labor support. And the fact that they have all this, it's like a shield against the standard progressive attacks on conservatives. It just makes it so difficult to make them seem like they're anti the regular person, anti the interests of working people, when they've got these fucking unions lining up behind them, right? I mean, it's really been a body blow for the opposition parties. Jenni, anything more on this before we move on?
No, I would just say this would be interesting. I'd like to hear your take, and David, maybe you want to wait till tomorrow until the larger numbers, the telephone numbers come out. It would be interesting to know who right now is in the Liberal Party voter coalition. Like, who are voters that are generally being attracting, because it doesn't seem to, to Scott's point of, the public and private sector unions, and now we've got urban rural, we've got all of these different divides if you're in the Liberal war room now and you're looking at what your potential coalition or who your voters are, I'm not sure you even fully comprehend who that is.
Well, it's certainly in flux. And, again, I can never talk about something like this without mentioning my role in making it in flux, because they started from a base of 20% after the last election. So by definition, their coalition is a little bit in flux.
We help them concentrate their efforts. David and I said, folks, we're going to take this thing back to code.
So, cost of housing is a capital letter topic nowadays, to put it mildly. For younger people especially, the market is a merciless beast. Home prices and rents in several Canadian cities have risen to the point where they now consume an impossible portion of some people's incomes. So imagine being the parents of a special needs child. Independent living is a measure of personal dignity. The most vulnerable among us often need help. They are quite simply unable to cope with the indifferent power of market forces. Well, a group of parents in Montreal decided to act. One of them is a former employee of our sponsor, CN, and CN happens to be deeply invested in service to the communities where it operates. So when La Part à Moi was founded 10 years ago, with its mission of providing housing stability to adults with special needs, CN's community fund paid attention. The fund, which depends on donations from CN employees and pensioners, exists to help agencies like La Part à Moi. Since 2012, the fund has channeled more than $400,000 to the group, and CN itself has sent a donation of $300,000. Today, La Part à Moi has a facility in Saint-Hubert on Montreal's South Shore. Residents have their own studio apartments, and each is entitled to a place for life in the residence. How's that for an amazing guarantee? There are full-time staff, shared meals, and organized support. The goal is to enhance residents' integration into society. Simply put, La Part à Moi represents the best of Canada, and it's fair to say the facility would not exist without the dedication and generosity of CN railroaders. There's no better cause. So, Allison told us that Andrea's event sheet today says that she is going to be talking about Del Duca's and Ford's cuts. The last NDP ad of the campaign is out, television ad. It's a negative ad against both Del Duca and Ford, featuring Del Duca as prominently as it does Ford. And yesterday, the NDP were found doing a subterranean digital campaign in Del Duca's riding, saying that he couldn't win and that only New Democrats could beat conservatives.
That's mean. That's mean.
That's maybe
so
not.
It's hard, exactly, Jenni. So it's hardball for second place now.
It is hardball for second place, and the NDP are feeling. Scott said this. I think yesterday. The NDP feel very bullish. They do feel like they've got a bit of wind in their sails right now. So and they're going after.
He really likes watching Andrea Horwath dance, doesn't he?
Oh man! Oh, let me tell you, it's the only thing that keeps me going.
Singing and dancing. They've completely won Scott over with that singing and dancing routine.
It doesn't take a lot, but you give me a little variety show and I light up.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Jenni.
No problem. So they're going negative because negative works, as we've said earlier on this pod and since the dawn of time. So they're going negative. It's a two-frontal assault against both Del Duca and the Liberals, and they're feeling cocky enough, they're feeling comfortable enough that they're taking a shot at Del Duca, as you said, in his own riding, because it's by all accounts, it's from what you're hearing from all sides. from people. It seems the likelihood of winning his seat has become less and less as this election goes forward, which is never a good feeling for a campaign going into the final 3 days.
Well, Lyle's polling would suggest that 1 out of 5 people in Ontario that normally day in, day out thinks of themselves as a Liberal is voting NDP in this election.
Right. I mean, we'll have to see his numbers tomorrow. But the other thing, though, to be fair, and this kind of makes me worry, because you always worry about relying on what you see.
Did I say 1 in 4? Because it's 1 in 5.
You said 1 in 5. You said 1 in
Okay,
5.
so-
Okay. You all right?
Yeah, I'm
the
all right
salts.
now. It's early. I don't want to get the numbers
gonna
wrong.
be-
Greg gets pissy.
That's fine. That's fine. Wash your face with soap. You'll come right back to life. But, Greg's numbers right now, we'll see what they're like tomorrow. They suggest that, those numbers suggest that the Liberals should actually be quite secure in reclaiming official opposition. I don't know what that means precisely for Stephen's seat. Like, that presumably is going to be a knife fight. But his numbers suggest a little more strength for the Liberals than what we what our eyes see. And I always worry, and this particularly happens when I'm working on campaigns. I'm very anxious about the stuff I see and over-interpreting it versus objective analysis, right? You kind of go, I think they're dancing, so I think maybe they're on the upswing. And that's, that could be bullshit, Reid. Maybe you're just dumb. I think, if Greg's numbers are to be believed, you got to feel like it's okay. On the other hand, again, just going back to anecdote, you're mentioning ads. I noticed an ad last night that I thought was as hard an ad as I've seen from the PCs against the NDP. Now, Jenni, I thought of you because it was a hard-hitting NDP ad, but it was on CP24. And I thought, is this a real ad? Or is this one of those ads they put on CP24 so they can say to the leader when he's on his bus, see, boss? See, Doug? We're beating the living hell out of them. I just wonder. And by the way, I will say, I also heard from an insider yesterday with the Conservative campaign that Ford was some pissed about numbers on the weekend and he wants big rallies and big people. And I'm Doug Ford and I have a picnic and I want lots of people, God damn it. So I think there's a sense within the Conservative campaign.
Why get big crowds when you
kicking.
can just get good photographers? I mean, they make the events look big, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And at this point, you're really wanting no one to be doing anything but pulling vote. That is the only thing the campaign should be outside of like the Leaders Tour. But small events. As I've said many times and would say every day, I always fucking hated when people would come to me from tour and say, we just need to get, 400 people out at 5 p.m. the day before the election instead riding. No.
Easy for you to say. You're not riding on the plane in the seat behind the prime minister, and he turns and says, Jesus Christ, there's no fucking people in Winnipeg. Why don't you get on the phone with headquarters? When we get in Edmonton, I want some goddamn people there. So I hear what you're saying, but like those of us in the bubble, man, we're getting beat up. And I think the folks at the Conservative bus got a little dose of that from Dougie on the weekend.
He would have turned to you and Feschuk and said, put down your beers and get on the phone and call somebody.
He would get so mad at us, Jenni, because we would sit right behind us. The second we would get on the plane, the stewards there's 2 women stewards, they would have beers waiting for us at our spot before we got on. Didn't matter what time of day, 8:00 in the morning, I shit you not, there was a beer waiting for us. Then we'd get there, we'd open up our big binders that had Paul's notes, and then we'd start rewriting them, and we would drink beer, and we would giggle, except he's right in front of us, and he would get insanely angry, as we would be making each other giggle. We'd be like laughing about, remember the $7 million man episode of the $6 million man, the race car driver who had 2 bionic legs and 2 bionic arms, and Paul would just go insane. He'd be like, "Are you guys writing me new shit? What the fuck are you doing back there?"
Why you decided, why you were placed right behind him?
He made us. He wanted us within throat grabbing distance. He's like, "Come here, you fuckers!" Right? We tried to sit in the back. With the journalists, and there's no having that. He wanted us within hair pulling room.
While there has been a recent pause in price escalation, first-time home buyers remain frustrated that they will never get the keys to their own home. With the provincial election this week, voters will need to consider what party can help them achieve the Canadian dream of home ownership. Our original sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association, says that while all the major political parties have included some solutions to the crisis in their platforms, what the newly elected government does to prioritize choice and affordability and how quickly they act moving forward will be critical. A recent poll conducted by Abacus Data on behalf of OREA says that 73% of Ontarians think that making housing more affordable should be a high priority for the Ontario government, with 84% saying that a party's ideas on solving the housing affordability crisis could be an important factor when deciding who to vote for on June 2nd. There are bold solutions to get the housing crisis under control that, if enacted, would help create the next generation of Ontario homeowners, including providing more help for first-time home buyers, building more homes, making home ownership more affordable, protecting consumers, and leveling the playing field. We are at a turning point. Whether they are millennials struggling to enter the market, growing families looking for more space, or downsizing empty nesters, it's clear Ontarians want action when it comes to the housing affordability crisis, and the next Ontario government needs to be prepared to respond. At the end of the day, everyone deserves a place to call home. Read OREA's plan at ahomeforeveryone.info. All right, let's dive into this really quickly. The federal government announced yesterday with some significant fanfare, I think there was all ministers and parliamentary secretaries on stage for this announcement.
Totally.
Gun control legislation. And I don't want to talk about the merits of it from a federal perspective, but I am curious about your reactions as to whether or not this issue being dropped with a few days to go has any potential impact on the Ontario election. Jenny?
I don't think it does. I don't think it has any impact on the Ontario election. The really only talk of guns was Del Duca. I think it was it on the weekend in terms of his the buyback policy.
He did yesterday, apparently. I learned this from Allison Smith in Queen's Park today. That yesterday he tried to raise it, but surely Ford won't bite, right, Jenny?
No, I don't see why why the Conservatives would respond and make it an issue with 2 days left to go. I don't see that this is going to turn into a substantive issue at all. I don't think there's do we see any issue coming in the forefront for the next 3 days, two full election days before election day that is going to galvanate, or is going to, the media are going to be be all over. I really don't see it. We really haven't had one of those issues for the entire campaign. I can't see there be something for like the last 2 days.
Well, that's sort of why I raised it, Jenny, because it seems that this is an issue that, because it's the federal government doing it, dominates the sort of political discussion in a way that the opposition parties have not been able to do at any point in this election. So,
but it's dominating more on the federal level. Like the commentary on this is the federal level. There isn't a provincial component to this.
Yeah, but I guess.
What would you do with it if you were the provincial Liberal, Scott?
I would just talk about it. I wouldn't even necessarily try to wedge on it, we'll see. But, throw out some stuff. But I guess my take is I generally agree with Jenny. I think it would be reckless to overstate what the likely impact is, but I would be grateful for it if I were the Ontario Liberals, nevertheless. I'd be grateful for it just because it's a game of inches right now. And in this battle, but particularly in the 4-1-6 between yourself and the NDP, where, it's going to come down to yard after yard, riding after riding. I just think something that sort of associates the Liberal brand with something that's on the numbers for people in those ridings, particularly on the numbers for those NDP Liberal switchers, I figure it can't hurt. So I would definitely try to find some time to talk it up and create a second day and associate myself with the But wouldn't you be more grateful? Like Del Duca's plan is different than what the federal government, like what the feds release. So it's not like people. And nobody who he wants a ban, not a Christ. People don't know the difference. Like just get in the river and swim in the same rough direction.
All right. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're up to our curse or blessing. Scott, go first today.
Well, my blessing goes to the Liberals. I thought that I like the fact that they went into Don Valley yesterday.
That's generous of you being the NDP rep on the panel.
It is. Well, look, I gotta go hard for the NDP the next couple of days, but no. I just thought I liked that they went into Don Valley yesterday. I liked that they went in there. Mark Saunders is a sort of star candidate, former police chief in Toronto. He's running in our friend Kathleen Wynne's old riding. He's, the Conservatives are trying to prop him up as a breakthrough hope. I know Mark Saunders a little bit. I did a little bit of work with him. Don't overstate it. It wasn't a huge amount, but what I saw did not impress me. So I like the fact that they went there. I don't want that guy to get elected. I'm warning you right now, Conservatives. You don't want that guy to get elected. He will disappoint you if he ends up in your cabinet. And I want to see that riding held. I want to see that riding held for our friend Kathleen. So I was glad that they went in there. It's a good platform to speak to the whole 416, and it looked like a good event. So I hope the Liberals tap that riding down and tuck it into the win column.
Hate to lose one of the 7. Jenny.
I guess mine would be it's one of those blessings / curses, and I'm going to do it to my party. I'm going to do it to the PC party. Is I too, Scott, have heard that there is a focus on rallies and numbers and what have you over the next 2 days. That they're looking at having a pre-election rally on Wednesday night. A pre-election rally on Wednesday night at in Etobicoke at the Congress Center, because that's where things get done. That's where all roads lead on things within the PC Party of Ontario.
It's Nazareth for the Ontario Conservatives.
But I would say, I get it. I understand, like what Scott's saying. I completely understand in terms of where leaders are, especially when you've run such a good campaign and it looks like you're kind of coasting into a victory. But there's still some seats. Guys like my friend Michael Ford, who's running in York Southwestern. There are a lot of ridings within that catchment area that could use could use the extra 3 hours on the door. So be careful in terms of how wide you're casting your net over the next 2 days, because the most important thing in this election leading into the next 2 days is pulling that remaining vote.
Very sound advice. Very sound advice. My blessing goes out to the previously mentioned Monty McNaughton. The Labour endorsement play is the single most interesting tactic I've seen employed in this election campaign. You appear to have orchestrated it. Impressive. I mean, bugger you, but impressive nonetheless. So, all right.
And curse you in your blessed good skin.
Oh,
exactly.
Jesus, I tell you, it's like looking in a mirror. It just shimmers. This guy scares me. If he succeeds Doug, he's going to have the Labour movement and that glassy skin. It's going to be scary.
All right. Thank you, TELUS. Thank you, CN Rail. Thank you, our original sponsor, the Ontario Real Estate Association. Thanks to Allison Smith in Queen's Park today. Thanks to Greg Lyle and Innovative. And by God, thank you, Jenny and Scott.
All right.
Good to see you every morning. All right. Thanks for listening. You're cursed. See you tomorrow morning. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.